All right, welcome everyone to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Morgan Epika with Kamba Jr. Okay, so um, we'll be looking at the principles of micro of economics. Okay, so start with we'll start by defining what economy is. So the word economy, this one, it originally came from the Greek word of the one who just manages a household. That's where it came from. That's the word economy. That's what it means. So the broader definition of household as well as society and country, like we can give an example of Taiwan was called newly industrialized economy. That is the NIE, or rather the NIC, newly industrialized country. Okay, so like Zambia or Zambia's economy, this one we can even put it as an ZIC. Okay, yeah, economy. Okay, so now let's look at the fundamental economy. Okay, now when we talk about the word fundamental, it talks about something that is very important, like fundamental. It's something that is of significance. So fundamental problem that are faced by economy. Number one, fundamental economic problems are scarce resource. What is scarce? Scarce simply means lacking. When resources are not when resources are a few, then that is what we call as scarce. So the resources become scarce. Okay. So when the resources are in scarce, simply means that the resources are not enough. So scarcity simply means that the society has limited resources. It cannot produce all the goods and service people wish to. Resources we usually talk about, these are physical resources such as what? Financial resource as well as human resource. Okay. Now, okay, so let's look at this other part of economics. What is economics? Economics is just the study of how society manages its scarce resource. Economics is just a study on how the society manages its scarce resources. So this is just a study on how the society or country like Zambia will manage its limited resources just to for maybe a period of a year or even a term and whatnot. So it really comprises of microeconomics as well as macroeconomics. Now, when we talk about microeconomics, referring to those small economic setups such as microbanks and whatnot. And macroeconomics, we're referring to now bigger bigger industries that are into economies like FNB, like these are big banks and whatnot. Yes, Bank of Zambia, all those are under macroeconomics. Okay, now let's look at microeconomics. Microeconomics, this is just a study on how the household, and firm make decision and how they interact with the market. Okay, so under this module of economics 101, we'll look at the introductory of microeconomics, and then the intermediate, that is the intermediate of microeconomics. Like for example, mobile phone consumption, that is just the choice decision, as well as the mobile phone production decision. Those are just choice decision. And the mobile phone market. So if a person has got these maybe a person is selling maybe like mobile phone production decision, or maybe they are doing transaction like the way it is done on Airtel Money and all these micro financial transactions. So those ones are what we can differ, or rather refer to what we call as. Okay, then macroeconomics, Macro means large. So large economics, these are just the study of the the economic wide phenomenon that is just include the inflation. Now, when we talk about inflation, we're talking about the laws of supply and demand. No supply, we're talking about these people, and then demand, we're talking about the whole population that we have in Zambia. So if the suppliers are a few, then there will be high demand. Okay, so that's how it goes. So the laws of supply and demand in macroeconomics is very, very much important because that's the one that you control inflation. Okay, then we have unemployment. Okay, and economic growth. Okay, then examples, we can use what we call the quantitative using, that is just the Eurozone as well as the crisis, the Abenomics, and China economy soft landing. Okay, so in here, we're just referring to things that you control the economy. Okay, these are the things that you say, like when our economy is doing fine, guess what happened? Even our kwacha currency, it gains value. People will start buying our currency and giving us maybe US dollars, United States dollars, GBP, pound, and euros. Okay, so meaning that our kwacha it will be appreciated, and once our kwacha is appreciated, guess what? On the market, the kwacha will gain value, and then the kwacha will gain value, and then the dollar will drop. Like the dollar will drop. Yes. Okay, then let's look at everybody should learn about economics. Yes, almost every person should have at least some understanding of what economics is. Reasons why everyone should have understanding on how economics is. Number one, economics is just a subject that we must confront in our everyday life situation. As a matter of fact, we already spend a great deal with our time thinking about the economic issues such as the prices, talking about prices. Other people who are speaking now, they are complaining about the price, the increase in the price. That one usually talks about the inflation, where you find to say that there is no balance between the supply and the demand. So you need to use that principle law of supply and demand to balance up and control inflation. So income, that is economic growth, as well as consumption decision that is used in our job opportunity, talking about unemployment, and so on and so forth. So everyone should have at least an understanding of what economics is all about. Now, let's look at micro as well as macro effects. Okay, events. For example, if there is an increase in the gasoline, like if there's say the prices of petrol has gone up, guess what happened? The micro effect is that vehicle drivers as well as the bicycle market and electricity. So in here, you find to say that vehicle drivers, though, it will affect these people that are also uh, driving these vehicles like buses. Guess what happened? They'll also raise the price, and all those things. Electricity, the units also raise the unit. Why? Because there is there is there is an imbalance between supply as well as demand, and that will now cause inflation, which is just things are not matching up, and then the prices will go up, they'll skyrocket. Then macro effect. In macro effect, we're referring to inflation and unemployment. Okay, we're referring to inflation as well as unemployment. Okay, we're referring to inflation. So these are the principles that you govern economics. How do people make decisions? We have about 4 principles. How many people interact with each other? We have how do people make decisions? That's the first question. That's the one that we'll start with. Okay, principle number 1, people face the trade-off. The reason why maybe quit certain things and then focus on one thing that you want to put your time in and invest all your capacity. Making decision usually requires trading off. That is one go against the other. Yes, you can't trade two things simultaneously. That can't work. Yes, it can't work. So usually requires what we call the trade off. It requires the trade off. Okay. The second principle, we're just looking at the examples of trade off. Number one, we have I can give an example of students usually spends their time, how a student usually spends their time, and how a family decides to spend its income, and how Taiwanese government spends tax dollars, or even how Zambian government here, on how Zambian government spends their tax in Kwacha. Okay, then also how regulation may protect the environment and as the cost of what firm owners. Okay, so firm owners here we're referring to company owners. Okay, now, let's look at some of the special examples of trade-off. We have what we call the efficiency versus equity. Efficiency simply means the society that it can from its own resource. Okay, so under efficiency here is that the society usually gets the most that it can from its scarce resource, even if there are still limited resources. But the society will still get the most from even the limited resource that is available. That is what efficiency talks about. How about equity? Equity simply means the benefit of those resources that are distributed fairly among the member of the society. That is equity. So equity, they ought to be equal. Yes. So equity talks about the equalness. Yes. So this is just the benefit of those resources that are just distributed fairly among the members of the society. Now let's look at the examples. The tax that is paid by wealthy Zambians and they distributed to those that are less what fortunate. Okay, fortunate. Okay, for those that are less fortunate. Okay, now then we also have what we call the outcome. Outcome talks about the increased equity and reduced efficiency. Okay, now principle number two, the cost of something that you give up to get. Okay, so we have what we call something that is the cost of something is what you give up to get it. Okay, so if you want to get something, the cost that is gonna cost you is something that you're willingly to give up so that you can get what you want or what you're desiring for. I'll give an example. Decision usually requires comparing the cost as well as the benefit of alteration. Okay, so you need to compare between the cost as well as the benefit. Then from there, people make decision whether to go to college or to work. So that's also, it's another question that has a lot of decision to be made. The opportunity cost of an item is what you give up to obtain that item. Yes, so the opportunity cost of that item is what you usually give up for you to get that item. Okay, opportunity cost usually comprises of both usually comprises. Okay, in here we're referring to opportunity cost. They usually comprise both explicit cost and the implicit cost. Okay, now let's take a very quick quiz. What are the opportunity costs of going to college? What are the opportunity costs of going to college? Number one, if you know that you're going to college, you need to know to say that there are also tuition cost that you need to pay for the school fees. Okay, then also the room, as well as the room and the room for boarding. That's if you are in the boarding house or in the school facility and whatnot. Yeah, then also there is also what we call the foregone pay. Okay, so we also have this one. Okay, now let's look at this one. Another quick quiz. What is the opportunity cost of seeing a movie? Number one, it talks about the cost of admission. The opportunity cost of you seeing a movie. Number one, you need to consider how much money, how much does it cost for you to watch that movie at the cinema. Then again, time cost of going to the theater. Like how much time are you going to spend at the theater there? So all those things are what we call opportunity cost. Time cost to attend the show. All that thing has to be taken into consideration. Note that time cost depends on what else you might do with that time. For example, staying at home the whole day and watching TV, or rather working an extra 3 hours at a paid job. Which one? So you need to make a decision from there. So in there, you just have to calculate as well as know the cost analysis for your time cost. Okay. Principle number 3, we have what we call the rationale people thinks at the margin. Okay, now what does it mean when we say the rationale people thinks at the margin? Many decisions in life usually involves the incremental. Many decision in life involves incremental decision. What are these incremental decision? Incremental decision, these are decisions like course this semester. You are asking if you can take another course this semester. Okay, then the margin change, these are just small to an existing plan of action. Okay, people make decision by comparing the cost and benefit at the margin. So you need to draw the margin, then you compare the cost as well as the benefit that you get right at the margin. Then people will make decision. Principle 4, people respond to incentives. What are incentives? Incentives, these are gifts. Okay, people respond to incentives because people make decision by weighing the cost as well as benefits, and their decision may change in response to the change in the cost of it. What makes people to change the way they're making decision? It is because they usually look at these two. They usually weigh the cost. They'll weigh the cost and the benefit, and then they'll make decision. For example, the seatbelt laws increases the use of seatbelts and lower the incentive of individuals to drive safely. Okay, so that's just an example that I can give from here. So sometimes if there is people usually respond to incentives, like if there is something of value that they've seen, and then they'll even make up their mind. Okay, so under incentive here, we're just, the one thing that what you should take into consideration is that on incentive, these are benefit that you get. The benefit that you get will make you to it will also have an interference on how you make decision. How do people interact? That's a question. That's $1 billion question. How do people interact? Okay, now let's get into it. Principle 5. Trade can make everyone better off, which is true. What is trade? Trade is just the buying and selling of good with the aim of making one profit. Okay, now trade can make people better off. People gain from their ability to trade with one another. Okay, competition results in gain from trading. Okay, so these competition, they are just as a result of the gains from trading. Trade allow people to specialize in what they do best. Okay, so trade usually become specialized on what they usually do, on what they can do best. For example, most families do not build their own homes, okay, but they make their own clothes and grow their own food. But building, they can't. Someone will build for them. So in here, it simply means that trade can, for example, if you say you want to build a house, you need to call someone who is maybe has specialties in building, then that person will build the house for you. So that simply means that you're also empowering someone. So that's how people can interact by making, but trade can make people, can make everyone to become better off by giving them some opportunities to explore their skills. Okay. Principle number 6, markets are usually a good way to organize economic activities. What is a market? A market is just the place where traders, where buyers, where sellers, where suppliers as well as the demanders meet to do business. So a market economy is just the economy that allocates resource through the decentralized decision of many firms and households as they interact in market of goods and service. Okay, I'll give an example. Adam Smith made the observation that the household and the firm interact in the market acts as if guided by an invisible hand. Okay, that is just at the market price. Okay, so these two things, the supplier and the demand, these are the two principal things that you control price. Okay, so sometimes you find to say that if the suppliers are a lot, the price become low. But if the suppliers are a few, the demand will be too many, and then they'll have an increase in the demand will also have an effect on the price. Price usually goes up. Principle number 7, government can sometimes improve market outcome. How does the government able to improve some market's outcome? Like, for example, let's start with market failure. What is market failure? Market failure occurs when the market fails to allocate resource efficiently. So when the market is failing to allocate its resources efficiently, then we will land into what we call market failure. Okay, then market failure can be caused by an externality which is the impact of one person or the firm action on the well-being of a bystander. Okay, bystander. Okay, then we have another thing that causes market failure. It is market power. What is market power? Market power, which is just the ability of a single person or a firm, that is a company, to unduly market price. Yes, so imagine when the market price has been influenced thoroughly, guess what happened? This will have an effect on the market. The market may result into market failure. Why? Because there is an influence, there is someone that is influencing the market prices. So when the market fails, that is the breakdown. When there is market breakdown, meaning that the government can intervene to promote the efficiency and equity. Okay, now how the economy as the whole works. How does economy as the whole works? Or how does economy works? Okay, so economy, principle number 8, the standard living depends on a country's production. So if we want to improve on our standard of living, improving the standard of living, it all entirely dependent on the country's what? Production. When the country is producing more goods, then guess what? The standard of living will be improved. It will be improved. But if the country is very low, guess what happens? Even the standard of living becomes difficult. That's what usually happens. If we don't have anything to export, we're just importing, then our currency will keep on depreciating, and the foreign currency, which is the United States dollar, will keep on appreciating. So we need to have something that is, we need to have something in production. When we start producing something and then we are exporting our goods, then that simply means that people will start buying our kwacha currency and giving us the foreign currency. Okay. Now, the standard of living may be measured in different ways. Number one, by comparing the personal income. You check what someone usually get at the end of the month, or rather by comparing the total market value of a nation's product, that is the GDP, the gross domestic product. Okay, almost all variation in the living standards are explained by difference in the country productivities. Okay, now what is productivity? Productivity simply talks about the amount of goods and services produced from each hour of a worker's time. Productivity is the amount of goods and services that is produced from each hour of a worker's time. That is productivity. Okay, principle number 9, where we talk about the price rise when the government prints too much money. The price usually rises when the government prints too much money. Too much money such that has the money. So this simply means that when everyone, as we speak now, when everyone has got the money now, guess what happened? The price of commodities will go up. Why is it like that? Because check, the price will rise when the government prints too much money. Imagine when there is too much money, everyone has got money. Guess what will happen? Meaning that we will have a situation where we'll have more people are demanding. We'll have more demand and less suppliers. And an increase in the demand, it also has another negative effect on the price. Guess what happened? The price goes up. The price increases. Why? Because the suppliers are a few. The demand are a lot. The demand have increased, the suppliers are a few, hence an increase in the demand, it's an inversely proportion to price. So an increase in, it's a direct proportion, not inversely. That one is just directly proportional to price. So when there is an increase in demand, there is also an increase in price, okay? Because demand is inversely proportional to supply. So when there is increased demand, the suppliers becomes low. Okay, so inflation is just an increase in the overall levels of the price in the economy. So one of the inflation is just a growth in the quantity of money. The whole government creates the large quantities of money, and the value of its money does what usually falls. Okay. So when the government creates a large quantities of money, like let's say for example, when the government prints a lot of kwacha, a lot of Zambian currencies, that's what happened. The value of the money will fall. Yes, because it's everywhere. Yeah. Principle number 10, society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Okay. So using the Phillips curve illustration of the trade-off between inflation and unemployment, the inflation is lower, then unemployment is higher. Okay, so when we say inflation is lower, when the inflation is low, we are talking about the supply and the demand. So this simply talks about when the inflation is low. It also have another where we have unemployment is higher. So when unemployment is higher, guess this simply means that we have a lot of people that are just maneuvering just on the street, as well as loitering around the street without doing anything because they're unemployed. Okay, so this one also, it's as a result of what, when the inflation is lower. So it is just a short run trade-off. Now let's look at it. Okay, so that's just a short run trade-off. So you need to remember these 10 principles of economics. Okay, once you remember them, you need to remember them as well as revise them. All right. Thank you so much for your attention. This has been your host, Morgan Pika Izolukama Jr. Ensure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification button for more update as well as the videos that will be sharing on this platform. Thank you so much. Shalom. God bless you.